The holidays are here, and you know what that means, right? Our inboxes are going to be flooded with deals and our credit cards are going to be working overtime. But while we're, spreading that holiday cheer, there's another group getting ready for the season too.
Oh, yeah,
Scammers.
that's right.
And that is why we are diving deep into the FBI's insights on holiday scams today.
I like that.
We're going to help equip you with the knowledge you need to protect yourselves and shop safely online. Think of us as your little cybersecurity elves.
That's a great way to put it. And, it is important to remember these scammers are incredibly sophisticated.
Yeah.
You know how to take advantage of, the holiday rush, and they prey on our desire to, get a good deal.
Absolutely. So let's get started with the big picture. The FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center has some pretty staggering statistics. In 2023 alone, they reported over $309 million
Wow.
lost to non-payment and non-delivery scams.
Yeah.
And that's not even counting credit card fraud, which added another $173 million to that total.
What's really interesting is that those figures represent losses reported throughout the entire year, but the FBI actually sees a huge spike in these complaints in the first few months of every year,
Oh, really?
suggesting that a lot of these scams are tied to holiday shopping.
Oh, wow.
But people don't realize they've been victimized until after the season is over.
That is a scary thought.
Wow.
So we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars just poof, gone.
Yeah.
Because of these holiday hustlers.
That's right. And the FBI highlights two main types of scams to watch out for. Non-delivery, which is pretty straightforward. You
Great.
find a great deal online,
Yeah.
click buy, and then eagerly await your package, but it never arrives.
Right.
The seller disappears, and you're left empty-handed.
It's like when you realize you've been left off the Secret Santa list, except way worse for your bank account.
Exactly.
Now, what about non-payment scams? Is that when the seller gets scammed instead of the buyer?
Yeah, in a non-payment scam, you're the seller. You think everything's legitimate, and you ship the item.
Oh.
But the payment never actually goes through,
Oh.
so you lose both the merchandise and the money you were expecting.
Ouch, shark. Double whammy. So before we even get into, specific types of scams, the FBI emphasizes something called cybersecurity hygiene.
Right.
What exactly does that mean, and why is it especially important during the holidays?
Well, you can think of it as your digital immune system.
Yeah.
It's all about practicing safe online habits to protect yourself from, those digital viruses, so to speak. And during the holidays, when we're being bombarded with emails about all these flash sales and limited time offers,
Yeah,
it's easy to let our guard down.
right.
That's when the scammers strike.
It's kind of like when you're at a holiday buffet, you want to try everything, but you got to be careful not to overload your plate with too much of the risky stuff.
Exactly.
So what are some practical tips for maintaining good cybersecurity hygiene during the holidays?
The FBI warns about, clicking on suspicious links or opening attachments from senders that you don't know. Those emails that scream, "You've won a free cruise," or "Your Amazon account has been suspended."
Oh yeah, I've definitely seen those in my inbox. Those are classic phishing scams, right? They try to trick you into giving up your info or downloading something bad disguised as something good.
That's exactly right. Have you ever almost fallen for one?
I have to admit, I almost clicked on one once that looked like it was from my bank.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's so easy to fall for these things, especially when they look so convincing.
It really is. And what's scary is that just clicking on one of those links could lead to you downloading malware onto your computer or your phone. And then suddenly, that amazing deal that you thought you were getting turns into a nightmare when you realize your data has been stolen.
So no matter how tempting that free iPad offer is, don't click it. Any other red flags we should be watching out for?
Be wary of emails that pressure you to act immediately, especially if they're trying to create a sense of urgency or fear. Legitimate companies rarely, if ever, resort to scare tactics to get you to update your password or verify your account.
Right. If you get an email that seems even a little bit suspicious, what should you do?
The FBI recommends contacting the company directly, using a phone number or email address, is legitimate. Do not use any of the contact info that's in that suspicious email.
Great advice. So we've talked about bolstering our cybersecurity defenses and
Yeah.
dodging those phishing traps, but what about when we're actually ready to hit that buy button? How can we tell if we're dealing with a legitimate seller or a buyer online?
That's where the art of vetting comes in. It's like being a detective, carefully examining the evidence before you make a decision. And the FBI offers some excellent guidance on how to do just that.
Okay, I love a good detective story, especially when it helps me avoid getting scammed. So what are the FBI's top tips for vetting online sellers?
First, they emphasize the importance of secure websites. You always want to look for that HTTPS in the website address along with that little padlock icon in your browser bar.
Oh, yeah.
That S in HTTPS stands for secure, and it indicates that the site uses encryption to protect your information during transmission.
Okay, so it's like sending your credit card details in a sealed envelope instead of on a postcard for everyone to see.
Exactly. And if you're dealing with a company that you've never heard of before, don't hesitate to do a little research.
Right.
Google them, check for reviews on reputable sites, see what other customers have to say.
So reputation is everything online. Basically, if a company has a ton of bad reviews or no online presence at all, that's a big red flag.
It's like choosing a restaurant. You wouldn't eat at a place with terrible reviews and no health inspection rating.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah.
What about those online marketplaces where you're buying from like individuals instead of companies? Are there any specific tips for navigating those?
The FBI says to pay close attention to feedback ratings. If a seller has mostly negative reviews or no ratings at all, proceed with extreme caution.
It's like that saying, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to those like once in a lifetime deals, you know? Like a brand new TV for a fraction of the retail price.
Exactly. The FBI specifically warns against those too good to be true offers. They're often just bait used by scammers to lure in unsuspecting shoppers. And be particularly wary if the supposed authorized dealer is located in a country where those incredible deals wouldn't typically exist.
So if I see a designer handbag for $50 and it's supposedly shipping from some remote island, that's a sign to run in the other direction.
Definitely a red flag. Another thing to watch out for is a seller who claims to be in the U.S. but then gives a bunch of excuses about why they can't meet in person or why the item is shipping from a different location.
Yeah, those convenient out-of-office stories, always a little suspicious. Now, what about when you're the seller? Are there any red flags to look out for on that side of things?
Absolutely. If you're the seller, be cautious if a buyer requests a specific shipping method to bypass customs or taxes in their country. This could be a sign that they're trying to pull something shady.
It sounds like there's a lot of nuances to consider.
Yeah.
So let's say we've vetted the seller, we've done our due diligence, we're ready to make the purchase. Now comes the payment part. Any tips from the FBI on how to stay safe during this critical stage?
The FBI is very clear on this point. Never ever wire money directly to a seller.
Okay.
Once that money's gone, it's virtually impossible to recover.
Makes sense.
It's like sending cash through the mail and hoping it reaches its destination safely.
And what about those prepaid gift cards that seem to be everywhere these days? Are those safe for online shopping?
Unfortunately, no.
Yeah.
The FBI strongly advises against using prepaid gift cards for online transactions.
Really?
Scammers love them because they're basically untraceable. Once they have those card details, the money is gone, and you're left with nothing.
So if someone asks you to pay for something with a gift card, that's a clear sign that something's not right.
Exactly. Now, credit cards, on the other hand, are generally considered the safest way to pay for things online because they offer greater protection.
Okay.
If you see any suspicious charges on your statement, you can dispute them with your credit card company.
So it's good to have that extra layer of security, knowing you have some recourse if things go wrong. And the FBI emphasizes the importance of regularly monitoring those credit card statements, right?
Absolutely. Make it a habit to check your statements regularly, just like you would check your bank balance. You want to catch any unauthorized charges early on before they turn into a bigger problem.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Vetting sellers, choosing secure payment methods, and keeping a watchful eye on those statements. But what about after we've actually made a purchase? Are there any tips for staying safe during the shipping process?
Tracking numbers are your best friend. Make sure you get a tracking number from the seller and use it to monitor your package's journey. You can even sign up for text or email alerts so you know exactly where it is at all times.
It's like having a little GPS tracker for your gifts.
Exactly. Now, if you're a seller, the FBI advises you to be wary if the buyer's shipping address doesn't match their credit card billing address.
Interesting.
This discrepancy could be a sign of fraudulent activity.
So if that festive holiday sweater is suddenly being shipped to a different state than the buyer's billing address, that's a red flag.
Precisely. Always double-check and get the cardholder's authorization before shipping anything out to a mismatched address. It could save you a lot of trouble.
Okay, this has been incredibly helpful. We've talked about recognizing scams, vetting buyers and sellers, secure payments, and safe shipping practices. But let's be real, despite all our precautions, there's always a chance we could still fall victim to a scam. So what should we do if that happens? What are our options?
Well, it's good to know that even if the worst happens, there are steps we can take. We can report these scammers and hopefully prevent other people from becoming
I
victims.
agree.
The FBI actually has a dedicated website specifically for reporting internet crime, and that includes holiday scams.
Oh, wow.
It's called the Internet Crime Complaint Center, or IC3
Yeah.
for short, and you can find it at ic3.gov.
Okay, so if we encounter a scam, don't just ignore it. Report it to IC3 and the FBI can investigate. So the more information they have, the better they'll be able to, combat these cyber criminals.
Exactly. Speaking of knowledge, the FBI also has this great podcast called Inside the FBI.
Oh, cool.
They have specific episodes that go even deeper into holiday scams and fraud.
Oh, I love podcasts. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Definitely adding that to my list. So as we wrap up our deep dive into holiday scams, what are the key takeaways for our listeners? How can we all enjoy the season without getting scammed?
It really comes down to staying informed, being cautious, and trusting your instincts.
Mm.
Remember those tips from the FBI? Look for secure websites, research companies that you're not familiar with. Be wary of those deals that seem too good to be true. Choose safe payment methods and keep an eye on those tracking numbers. And if something feels off, don't be afraid to stop and ask questions.
It's better to miss out on a deal than to lose your money to a scammer.
Right.
And remember, you can always report any suspicious activity to the FBI at ic3.gov. All right, listeners, we've deputized you as savvy online shoppers and cybersecurity sleuths. Go forth, enjoy the holiday season, armed with the knowledge to outsmart those scammers. And here's a final thought to ponder as you navigate the online marketplace. What are your personal red flags for spotting a potential scam? What are those little things that make you think something's not right here? Share your scam busting wisdom with us and let's help each other stay safe out there. Happy holidays, everyone.